All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the last reading of Romeo and Juliet of the year. We are so close to the end of the year. I'm really proud of so many of you continuing to work through your assignments and to continue to push through. The end is so close to the school year, and that is really, really awesome. Before we really get into this, I just wanted to give you all kind of a warning. This scene does have suicide in it, okay? So if that is tough for you to either hear or read about or be around, you do not have to continue to read this, okay? There is no exit slip or assignment attached to this. It's just reading what happens in the very last scene, all right? So if you know that you're triggered by these things, or you don't want to hear about like these actions happening, um, I totally understand, and so please, you do not have to continue to watch the video, okay? That being said, I am going to go ahead and get started now. So, in Act 5, Scene 3, the very last scene of Romeo and Juliet, Paris visits Juliet's tomb, okay? Remember, Juliet is currently perceived as dead. Romeo just went to uh, an apothecary and bought some uh, poison, excuse me, and Friar John, we learned in yesterday's scene, Friar John did not get the note over to Romeo, so Romeo does not know that this is all a ploy, right? This is all just a play in order to like save him and Juliet's marriage. All right, so Paris, remember, who is Juliet's, like, who she was supposed to marry, visits Juliet's tomb, and when Romeo arrives, Romeo challenges Paris. Romeo and Paris get in a fight, and Romeo kills Paris. Romeo then takes the poison and dies as he kisses Juliet. Okay, so he does kill himself. As Friar Lawrence enters the tomb, Juliet awakes to find Romeo lying dead. Frightened by a noise, the friar flees to the tomb. Juliet kills herself with Romeo's dagger. Alerted by Paris's page, the watch arrives and finds the bodies. So they find Paris, Romeo, and Juliet all in the tomb. Then the prince, the Capulets, and the Montague arrive. Friar Lawrence gives an account of the marriage of Romeo and Juliet, whose deaths lead Montague and Capulet to declare that their hostility is at an end. Okay, so Paris enters the tomb and says, "Give me thy torch, boy, hence and stand aloof. Yet put it out, for I will not be seen. Under yond yew trees lay thee all alone, holding thy ear close to the hollow ground. So shall no foot upon the churchyard tread, being loose, unfirm, with digging up graves. But thou shalt hear it. Whistle then to me as signal that thou hearest something approach. Give me those flowers. Do as I bid thee. Go. I am almost afraid to stand alone here in the churchyard, yet I will adventure." And he moves away. So Paris approaches uh, her body and says, "Sweet flower, with flowers thy bridal bed I strew. O woe, thy canopy is dust and stones, which with sweet water nightly I will dew, or, wanting that, with tears distilled by moans, the obsequies that I for thee will keep, nightly shall bestrew thy grave and weep." And the page whistles. Remember, the whistle means, hey, they're here, okay? And the boy gives warning, something doth approach. What cursed foot wanders this way tonight, to cross my obsequies with in true love's right? What, with a torch? Muffle me, knight, awhile. And he steps aside. So Romeo and Balthazar enters, and Romeo says, "Give me thy mattock and that wrenching iron. Hold, take this letter. Early in the morning, see thou deliver it to my lord and father." So he's like, "I have a letter for you. Please deliver it to my father, to let him know that I passed away." Give me the light. Upon thy life I charge thee. Whatever thou hearest or seest, stand all aloof, and do not interrupt me in my course. Why I descend into this bed of death is partly to behold my lady's face, but chiefly to take thence from her dead finger a precious ring, a ring that I must use in dear employment. Therefore hence be gone. But if thou, jealous, dost return to pry in what I farther shall intend to do, by heaven, I will tear thee joint by joint, and strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs. The time and my intents are savage wild, more fierce and more inexorable far than empty tigers or the roaring sea. And Balthasar says, I will be gone, sir, and not trouble you. So thou shalt show me friendship. Take thou that, giving him money. Live and be prosperous, and farewell, good fellow. For all this same I'll hide my hereabout. His looks I fear, and his intents I doubt. And he steps aside. Okay, so really the last person that can stop Romeo from dying is Balthasar. And he says, I will let you do this. Okay? Kind of a bad friend, if I'm being honest with you. And Romeo, who opens the tomb, says, Thou detestable maw, thou womb of death, gorged with the dearest morsel of the earth, thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I'll cram thee with more food. And Paris comes out and says, This is that banished, haughty Montague, that murdered my cousin's love, with which grief it is supposed the fair creature died, and here is come to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will apprehend him. And he steps forward. Stop thy unhallowed toil, vile Montague. Can vengeance be pursued further than death? Condemned villain, I do apprehend thee. Obey and go with me, for thou must die. And Romeo says, I must indeed, and therefore I came hither. Good gentle youth, tempt not a desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. Think upon these gone. Let them affright thee. I beseech thee, youth. Put not another sin in my head by urging me to fury. Oh, begone! By heaven, I love thee better than myself, for I come hither armed against myself. Stay not, begone, live, and hereafter say, a madman's mercy bid thee run away. So he's like, go away, or I'm gonna have to kill you. And Paris says, I do defy thy combination, and apprehend thee for a felon here. Wilt thou provoke me? Then have at thee, boy. And they fight. So imagine on stage, Paris and Romeo are fighting. Oh Lord, they fight. I will go call the watch. And so the page leaves to go and warn that him and Paris are fighting. Oh, I am slain. If thou be merciful, open the tomb. Lay me with Juliet. And he dies. Okay, so Romeo does kill Paris. And Romeo says, In faith I will. Let me peruse this face. Mercutio's kinsman, noble county Paris. What said my man when I betossed soul did not attend him as we rode? I think he told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so? Or did I dream it so? Or I am mad, hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so. Oh, give me thy hand, one writ with me in sour misfortune's book. I'll bury thee in a triumphant grave. And so he opens the tomb, and he says, A grave? Oh no, a lantern, slaughtered youth. For here lies Juliet, and her beauty makes this vault a feasting presence full of light. Death, lie thou there, by a dead man interned. And so he lays Paris in the same tomb. How oft when men are at the point of death have they been merry, of which their keepers call a lightning before death. Oh, how may I call this a lightning? O my love, my wife, death, that hath sucked the honey of thy breath, hath no power yet upon thy beauty. Thou art not conquered, beauty's ensign, yet is crimson in thy lips and thy cheeks, and death's pale flag is not advanced there. Tybalt, liest thou there in thy bloody sheet? Oh, what more favour can I do to thee than what is that hand that cut thy youth in twain, to sunder that this or his that was thine enemy? Forgive me, cousin. Ah, dear Juliet, what art thou so fair, yet so fair? Shall I believe that unsubstantial death is amorous, and that the lean, abhorred monster keeps thee here in dart to be his paramour? For fear that I still shall stay or will stay with thee, and never from this palace of dim night depart again. Here I will remain, with worms that they are or that are thy chambermaids. Oh, here will I set up my everlasting rest, and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars for this world-wearied flesh. Eyes, look your last. Arms, take your last embrace. And lips, O you, the doors of breath, seal with a righteous kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. And he kisses Juliet, and he says, Come, bitter conduct, come, unsavory guide, thou desperate pilot, now at once run on the dashing rocks thy seaside weary bark. Here's to my love, and he drinks the poison. And he says, O true apothecary, thy drugs are quick, thus I kiss, or thus with a kiss I die. And Romeo kills himself. Okay? After a little bit of time, Friar Lawrence comes in and says, St. Francis be my speed, how oft tonight have my old feet stumbled at graves? Who's there? And Balthasar says, Here's one, a friend, and one that knows you well. Bliss be upon you. Tell me, good my friend, what torch is yond that vainly lends his light to grubs and eyeless skulls? As I discern, it burneth in the chapel's monument. It doth so holy, sir, and there's my master, one that you love. Who is it? Romeo. How long hath he been in there? Full half an hour. Go with me to the vault. I dare not, sir. My master knows not, but I am gone hence. And fearfully did menace me with death, if I did stay to look on his intents. Stay then, I'll go alone. Fear comes upon me. Oh, much I fear some ill unthrifty thing. As I did sleep under this yew tree here, I dreamt my master and another fought, and that my master slew him. And Friar Lawrence is moving towards the cave, and he says, Romeo, alack, what blood is this which stains the stony entrance of this sepulchre? What mean these masterless and gory swords to lie deplored by this place of peace? Romeo, O pale, what else? What? Paris too, and steeped in blood? What an unkind hour is guilty of this lamentable chance. The lady stirs, and Juliet wakes up, and she says, O comfortable friar, where is my lord? I do remember well where I should be, and there I am. Where is my Romeo? And Friar Lawrence says, I heard some noise. Lady, come from that nest of death, contagion, and unnatural sleep. A greater power that we contradict hath thwarted our intents. Come, away. Thy husband in thy bosom lies dead. And Paris too. Come, I'll dispose of thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Stay not to question, for the watch is coming. Come, go, good Juliet, I dare no longer stay. Go thee, or get thee hence, for I will not away. And Friar Lawrence leaves because he hears a noise and he doesn't want to be responsible for the death of Romeo in Paris, right? So he's worried that if he stays there, when the Capulets and the Montagues get there, they're going to blame him for the death. And so he leaves. What's here? A cup closed in my true love's hand? Poison, I see, hath been his timeless end. O churl, drunk all, and left no friendly drop to help me after. I will kiss thy lips. Haply some poison yet doth hang on them, to make me die with the restorative. And she kisses him. Thy lips are warm. And Paris's page and the watch come in, and they say, Lead watch, lead, boy, which way? Yeah? A noise? Then I'll be brief. O happy dagger, this is thy sheath. There rust and let me die. And she stabs herself, okay? And she kills herself because she can't live in a world where Romeo is dead. And the page comes in and says, "This is the place where the torch doth burn. The ground is bloody. Search about the churchyard. Go, some of you, whoever you find, attach." And some of the watchmen go and exit. Pitiful sight, here lies the county slain, and Juliet bleeding, warm and newly dead. Who here hath lain this 2 days buried? Go, tell the prince. Run to the Capulets. Raise up the Montagues. Some others search, and they exit. We see what ground whereon woes do lie, but the true ground of all these piteous woes we cannot without circumstance descry. And Romeo's man Balthasar enters. "Here's Romeo's man. We found him in the churchyard. Hold him in safety till the prince come hither." And Friar Lawrence enters and says, or in the third watch says, "And here is a friar that trembles, sighs, and weeps. We took his mattock and his spade from him, as he was coming from this churchyard side. A great suspicion. Stay the friar too." And so they're like, we gotta keep all these people around because we don't know who actually killed all of these people, right? And so then the prince, who we really haven't seen since scene 1, or act 3, I mean, when he banishes Romeo, okay? And the prince says, "What misadventure is up, or is so early up, that calls our person from our morning rest?" And Capulets enter. And Mr. Capulet, the man, or the dad, says, "What should be that is so abroad? Oh, the people in the street cry, 'Romeo,' some 'Juliet,' and some 'Paris,' and all run with open outcry towards our monument. What fear is this which startles in our ears? Sovereign, here lies the county Paris slain, and Romeo dead, and Juliet dead before, warm and new killed. Search, seek, and know how this foul murder comes. Here is a friar, and slaughtered Romeo's man, with instruments upon them fit to open these dead men's tombs. O heavens, O wife, look at our daughter bleeds. This dagger hath mistaken, for lo, his house is empty on the back of Montague, and is mishearthed in my daughter's bosom." Heart. Lady Capulet says, "Oh me, this is a sight of death as a bell that warns my old age to a sepulture." And then the Montagues enter. And the prince says, "Come, Montague, for thou art early up, to see thy son, and here now early down. Alas, my liege, my wife is dead tonight. Grief of my son's exile has stopped her breath. What further woe conspires against mine age?" So the Lady Montague also died, okay, because she heard that Romeo was killed. And the prince says, "Look, and thou shalt see." And Montague sees Romeo and says, "O thou untaught, what manners is in this, to press before thy father to a grave? Seal up the mouth of outrage for a while, till we can clear these ambiguities, and know their spring, their head, their true descent, and then will I be general of your woes, and lead you even to death. Meantime forbear, and let mischance be slave to patience. Bring forth the parties of suspicion. I am the greatest, able to do the least, and yet most suspected, as the time and place doth make against me of this direful murder. And here I stand, both to impeach and purge myself, condemned and myself excused. Then say at once what doth thou knowst in this. I will be brief, for my short date of breath is not so long as a tedious tale. Romeo, there dead, was husband to that Juliet. Remember, they don't know that Romeo and Juliet are married, so he's confessing this. Romeo, there dead, was husband to that Juliet, and she, there dead, that Romeo's faithful wife. I married them, and their stolen marriage day was Tybalt's doomsday, whose untimely death banished the new-made bridegroom from the city. For whom, and not for Tybalt, Juliet pined. You, to remove that siege of grief from her betrothed, and with the married her perforce to county Paris. Then she comes to me, and with wild looks bid me to devise some mean to rid her of this second marriage. Or in my cell, there she would have killed herself. And then I gave her, so tutored by my art, a sleeping potion, which so took effect as I intended, for it to wrought her the form of death. Meanwhile I wrote to Romeo, that he should hither come as this dire knight to help take her from her borrowed grave, being the time the potion's force should cease. But he which bore my letter, Friar John, was stayed by accident, and yesternight returned my letter back. Then all alone in the prefixed hour of her waking, came I, to take her from her kindred's vault, meaning to keep her closely at my cell till I conveniently could send to Romeo. But when I came, some minute ere the time of her awakening, her untimely lay, the noble Paris and true Romeo dead. She wakes, and I entreated her come forth, and bear this work of heaven with patience. But then a noise did scare me from the tomb, and she too, desperate, would not go with me, but as it seems, did violence on herself. All this I know, and to the marriage her nurse is privy. And if aught in this miscarried by my fault, let my old life be sacrificed some hour before this time unto the rigour of the severest law. We still have known thee for a holy man. Where's Romeo's man? What can he say to this? And Balthasar says, I brought my master news of Juliet's death, and then in post he came from Mantua to the same place, to the same monument. This letter he early bid me to give his father, and threatened me with death going into the vault, and if I departed not and leave him there. Give me the letter, I will look at it. And the prince takes the Romeo's letter. Where is the county's page that raised the watch? Sirrah, what made your master in this place? He came with flowers to strew his lady's grave, and bid me stand aloof, and so I did. Anon comes one with light to ope the tomb, and by my master drew on him, and then I ran away to call the watch. This letter doth make the friar's words, and their course of love, the tidings of her death. And here he writes that he did buy a poison of a poor apothecary, and therewithal came to this vault to die and lie with Juliet. Where be these enemies, Capulet, Montague? See what a scourge it is laid upon your hate, that heaven finds means to kill your joys with love. And I, for winking at your discords too, have lost a brace of kinsmen. All are punished. O brother Montague, give me thy hand. This is my daughter's jointure, for no more can I demand. But I can give thee more, for I will ray her statue in pure gold, and whiles Verona by that name is known, there shall be no figure at such rate be set as the of true and faithful Juliet. As rich shall Romeo's by his ladies lie, poor sacrifices are enmity. And the prince says, a glooming peace this morning with it brings, the sun in sorrow will not show his head. Go hence to have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned, and some punished. For never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. And they all leave. And that is the end of Romeo and Juliet. So at the end of the story, the Montagues and the Capulets finally agree to get rid of their family troubles and come together as families of Verona. Okay, so all is peaceful after Romeo and Juliet's death. We're going to be talking about this later, and I don't want this video to go on too long, but tomorrow you will be given your final assignment of English 1, in which you will have to write a CCECECC, and I'll explain what that is in the video tomorrow. You'll have to write a paper, short paper, describing, based on the language and the tales of death in this story, should Romeo and Juliet be taught to high school students. All right, that's what I want you to think about. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.